Welcome back, everybody. John Malanka here with United Patient Group Be Informed and Be Well. And you probably recognize his face, Jerrik Keller. How are you doing, Jerrik?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I wanted Jerrik back. So I don't know if you saw the first one podcast we did on his company, Unity Formulas, which you see on his chest there. But our podcast, I ended it because I wanted to do a separate podcast on what Jerrik's doing for the autism community. And he's been working in the autism community for quite some time and has partnered with some great companies, not only with United Patient Group, but Autism Safe Haven, which is Jana Champagne's organization. And she's a nurse who you probably have seen not only on the podcast, but a few of the other docuseries I've done. And I've worked with Jana for probably about 8 or 9 years. So it's a great partnership too. So Jerrik, welcome back. Thanks for being on here. Want to give a brief introduction about you, but Unity and why Unity stands out. I know there's so many choices out there nowadays in the cannabis world, the CBD world, and all the other cannabinoids that are popping up. What makes one stand out over the other? And this Unity is something that I personally take. I share with my family, I share with my friends, and I share with a lot of families that have autism, and they are finding success. So Jerrik, welcome to the show, and if you can share a little brief intro about Unity, and then we'll talk about why your formulas, you're seeing success with your formulas with the autism community.
Yeah, so what makes Unity Formulas different is that our products are all targeted. So there are specific formulations, whether it's for sleep or pain, or in this case, we're speaking about autism. So how we achieve that is by, combining different ratios of cannabinoids, terpenes, making it very specific, using ingredients that are research back to provide support in these areas. And how I got into that was working with Jana that you mentioned earlier. And she has a lot of passion around autism, being a mom to an autistic daughter. Yeah. And so working with her daughter, and then working with others that she was seeing at the time is how we developed these formulas. And so, yeah, we have a lot of specific passion in that area. And it really came, how Jana and I came together was this shared bond for putting the patient first, trying to improve outcomes. And I think the areas where CBD may see, the least amount of positive outcomes are in more delicate or sensitive cases, as many of these in when it comes to autism are. So we saw an incredible increase in the positive outcomes in these cases once we moved towards targeted formulations and getting really specific and into the nuances of the cannabinoids.
Yeah, excuse me. You mentioned targeted formulas for your patients, and I applaud you for that. And so, as I mentioned in the last podcast with Jerrik, don't let his youthful look I guess puts you out, because he's wise. A lot of wisdom comes behind this, and a lot of years of farming, perfecting this plant and what he's done with families and their children. And that's how we met, because I have shared quite a few of the families that I work with on a regular basis, just trying to find that sweet spot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it stops working. And so what Jerrik and his company have done is not only answer phones, but also emails, but work with the families, work with the patients, and work with the doctors when they're trying to find that perfect formulation. It's not a one size fits all. We've seen this many times with a lot of female patients, that when it comes up to their menstrual cycles, everything is thrown out the door. I mean, we're going perfect. That time of the month comes, and the parents are calling, Jerrik, what do I do? We're seeing this whole change. Can you share how important that is to watch, but journaling, but also at that time of month for a lot of families to go through? And it's difficult to see your child just completely change. And then the parents are like, what did we do? What's going on? Do we need to change something? Is it the medicine? Is it affecting something in a negative way? So can you talk about that, please?
Yeah, so definitely, when we're interacting with the endocannabinoid system, as we are with cannabinoid products, we're dealing on working on such a large scale in the body, and so we're interacting with all the other systems as well. And so definitely that hormonal cycle, whether it's in a man or a woman, or even a child, entering into puberty. In a lot of these autism cases, the way I approach the situations is that oftentimes these individuals are a lot more sensitive to transitions, to changes in their environment, to changes in their routine. And so that is one common disruption, with the menstrual cycle. And so, yeah, we just try to arm, the parents with as much information as possible. And then also maybe, a couple different formulas, or, during that time, sometimes there's just a need for additional support. So yeah, it's definitely something that we try to plan around. And I think the biggest, going back to the targeted formulations, one of the biggest reasons is really all health is individualized, but especially when it comes to cannabinoids, it's, every individual interacts differently. And it's great to see science, starting to give us better starting places, more information. And so we go off of the latest research. But then once you're speaking to a parent or to an individual, yeah, we got to hone in onto the nuances of how does their body specifically interact with these cannabinoids. And that's what we really saw. The majority of the CBD industry is, pretty generic. One size fits all. Maybe you can change your dosage a little bit, but yeah, these cases require a lot more time spent on the phone, a lot more communication, a lot more paying attention to that individual feedback. And that's a process that I personally am always willing to go through with a customer. And that really sets us apart in that regard as well.
And I thank you for that, because the feedback that we receive after referring them to you has been positive. So thank you. And they say, God, finally someone listens. They care about my child, my individual.
Yeah.
And when I say child, you're talking about science. There's a lot of science. There's a lot of science. It's funny. I don't want to say funny because it's serious, because I have a handful of friends there whose children are experiencing autism. And I think the study now shows 1 out of every 44 children, male dominated. Actually, it's funny. I don't know why my men have it over boys have it over girls, but 1 out of 44. And why is that? Do you know that from working with Jana and a bunch of families? And why is it more prevalent now than it was, at least when I was growing up? Have you ever done a study on that, or heard why?
Yeah, obviously it's a great question. The answer, I would say, is not totally clear, depending on who you're talking to. I've heard a lot of different theories thrown out there. But I would just say in general, I think, especially here in the West, we're exposed to a lot more toxicity. There seems to be a very clear link between inflammation and autism, and not even to say that certain inflammation causes autism, but it definitely exacerbates it. And so and that's the thing, we use this one word, we call it autism, and what we're speaking about is the way someone can present thousands of different ways that are fit into the same category. Which is another reason, inside the community, as parents seek to gain more support and more understanding. They reach out and they communicate to each other, which is a great way of pooling resources together. However, what works for one almost never works for another, unless the cases are very similar. And so it really does require that individual touch. And with our formulations, it's a great starting place that they're targeted. But yeah, it's incredible how prevalent it is. Almost everyone I know and work with has a friend, a family member that experiences one form of autism or another. And so that's a massive area that needs addressed and supported. And yeah, that's definitely part of our mission.
And having support nowadays with groups that you can join online, parents aren't alone, because that must be the biggest fear for a parent, to see what's going on with my child, my perfect child, what's going on. And I'm certain years ago, they didn't have a Google, they didn't have a Facebook or online chats, or even podcasts talking about this. And so, it does help, and every little tidbit of information does help as well. You talk about, your formulas. What makes you guys really stand out? I know, we're combining like two podcasts here, because you spoke about Unity the other day, and I asked you to come back today. You're in Oregon. It's organic, and so the Oregon climate is wonderful for cannabis, but not all year round. But with your formulas, what makes the Oregon climate perfect for your product?
Yeah, in terms of Oregon, nice, hot, dry summers. All of our plants are grown outdoors here in Oregon. And so, I think that's some of the highest quality possible. And you can't produce an extraction or a product that is somehow better than what you started with. And so you have to start with the best if you're shooting for that high quality. And so then, along those same lines, we do an all organic ethanol extraction. We believe that's very important. Some people call that a full spectrum extract. We like to call it a whole plant spectrum, because it's not just a full spectrum of cannabinoids and terpenes, as some other extraction methods also produce, like CO2, but it's there's hundreds of other constituents in there as well, and we're extracting it in the ratios that the plant produces. So we really think we're harnessing that wisdom from nature. It's combining the technology. Obviously, it's great to concentrate it up, but then really letting the natural wisdom of the plant come through. And there's been studies done comparing isolated formulations to, full spectrum extracts. And it's not even close. In terms of dosing, you can take a much lower dose and achieve the same results using, an extract like ours. And then also what we see is that there's a much more narrow therapeutic window with isolated formulations, which means, trying to find that perfect dose, which is very important for an individual, is very hard. Whereas with ours, you can start low and you can work up slowly, and you can, find increasing support or increasing results as you work up, which is very important, especially, going back to autism. It's important in all cases, but especially there where we're dealing with heightened sensitivity. It's important to be able to start on the low end and work up and see, more of a linear return in the effects versus this bell curve we see with the isolated formulations, where you see almost no success. If you happen to hit that little window, you might see a spike in success. And then if you try dosing up, you start seeing diminishing return very quickly. So that's a very key component to what we're up to.
So for our audience that may have tried cannabis or tried another product, or even tried Epidiolex. Can you share what formulations that I know you have a beautiful site and with a lot of information on there, but what formulations besides CBD are you putting in there? What other type of cannabinoids? Can you talk about the different cannabinoids, how they're beneficial, and also the terpenes that you add as well, and what a terpene is?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, so we use beyond CBD, like you're saying, we use acidic forms like CBDa or CBGa. Some people call those the raw form that the plant produces the cannabinoids in before they're heated and converted into CBD or CBG. So yeah, we use all of those as well as CBN. And specifically around autism, CBN has been a revelation of sorts in many of our cases, seeing great support. There seems to be a higher level of tolerance, maybe like a dose that you and I would take. We have a formula called Sleep Calm, and that has our highest amount of CBN in it. And it's great for sleep for, let's say, you and I, but it can be incredibly powerful during the day for more behavioral outbursts that may occur in some cases. That's a very common feedback that we get. And so that's been very important. And then, yeah, we do add also other terpenes, things like linalool, which is found in high abundance in lavender. That's it's a known anti-anxiety, calming. Things like myrcene or beta-caryophyllene is in some of our products. And when we add, I just want to say, when we add additional terpenes, no terpenes have been removed in our extraction process, and so we're enhancing the formulation or tailoring it a little bit more powerfully or more specifically into an area, but is not meant to replace the terpenes already in abundance and found naturally in the plant. So we just pick strains that already have the highest level content of these terpenes. And then we build off of that. And terpenes, I guess, for the audience or terpenoids, they make up the large majority of what we think of as essential oils. And what's so beautiful about cannabis is that it produces some of the widest variety of terpenes in the entire plant world, which is why it's not very informative to speak about cannabis essential oil, because it's such a wide variety of terpenes produced. So one cannabis essential oil would have a completely different effect than another one. And that's why in the cannabis world, we talk more about the individual terpenes themselves that make up these essential oils. And it's far more informative to know the effects that a particular formulation may have on the body.
For our audience as well, there's about 140 different cannabinoids, and they all play a role. THC and CBD are probably the most two popular ones, I guess, because they get the most spotlight on them. But CBN, CBG, CBGa, which Jerrik was speaking of, these are all different cannabinoids that all play a role. CBN, which Jerrik was mentioning, is known for sleep, so the calming portion. I do know your products have a combination for the entourage effect. NeuroCalm, which has 600 milligrams of CBD and 60 milligrams of CBN. NeuroLift, which is 300 milligrams of CBG and 300 milligrams of CBD. And then Sleep Calm, which is 500 milligrams of CBDa and CBD, as well as 300 milligrams of CBN. Why are you seeing success with those, and those products really stand out over your whole line, but those three products really stood out and have stood out for your autism families and patients?
Yeah, so generally what we're wanting to accomplish or target with using these formulations kind of two ends of the spectrum. Sometimes, and probably most commonly, we're wanting to calm. Sometimes there's an epilepsy component as well in a lot of our autism cases. And so maybe we're wanting to address seizures as well. And so generally something a little bit more CBD oriented, and then getting into the CBN with the neural calm and the sleep calm, very powerful for, again, helping to smooth some of the spikes in either behavior or sometimes we're dealing with very energized individuals. So helping calm some of that. We're never wanting to go down the road of like sedation or creating, individuals who are not engaged in their environment. And that's why so many people do reach out to us saying, hey, we don't want to go down this route of sedating our child in these other ways. So they're looking for alternatives to that, more natural alternatives. And so we've seen a lot of success with those. Yeah. In terms of like the Neuro Lift or even our Elevate formula, both which contain a little bit more CBG, a lot of what we're trying to target with those is more speech development, focus, engagement, maybe even more on the ADD, ADHD side of the spectrum, trying to get individuals to engage a bit more. And that's been a very common feedback that we've had success in those areas. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not saying any of these things are guaranteed or that you will see these results this way. I'm just speaking toward from listening to feedback, spending thousands of hours with hundreds of people telling me they took a particular product and what they saw as a result. And so that's where this information I'm sharing is coming from.
I won't hold you to that. I know you're not able to make any claims either, but what I can do with United Patient Group and my name and reputation is that I've seen this product work, his products work. And I don't say over others, but in a lot of cases, yes, over others, and not downgrading any other company out there. There's some great products, there's great companies out there, but they all work differently for some reason. And there might be, I don't know if it's the sunlight or love you put into the product, but the terpenes or even the different strains. And hopefully one day with the medical community, they'll be able to really take this plant as a serious form of medicine. I have some dear friends that have been battling, I said battling, if you want to say, that has autism for 22 years. I'll reach out to Amelia. Hi, Amelia. I'll use Amelia. So Amelia not only has been incorporating cannabis for the past 5 years, but has really been her whole life working with trying to find a sweet spot for autism. The majority of her life with medications, but like I said, the past 4 or 5 years, I introduced cannabis and, hey, have you ever looked at cannabis? And they hadn't. So they had tried a few different things and had success, some failures, success and failures. But the one thing they do on a regular basis is go down to UCLA hospital and get EEGs. And the doctor, thank goodness, was on board. Let's see what we were doing here. I know nothing about it. And they have done EEGs not only on other cannabis brands, they've done EEGs with Epidiolex, and they've done EEGs with Jerrik's company, Unity. And I have to say, Jerrik, thank you, because you've changed their life of where they are. And I know Amelia and her family can attest to this, that is something that has been very beneficial. So thank you. And that's why I'm proud to have you on the show and proud to share what you've done with not just Amelia, but all the families out there that are going through this. On our website, there's an autism center that we've chosen to do so. One with Jerrik, but also Jana. And we found this very beneficial, not only some information on autism, information on certain videos, but with Jana helping, and also Jana Champagne, also known as Nurse Jana. She's been working with United Patient Group for, gosh, I wonder, like I said, 8, 9 years, 10 years. So it's someone I not only trust with my health, I trust her with my family's health, but all the people that we do recommend that as well. Jana runs an organization called Autism Safe Haven. 15% of the proceeds that Jerrik has over there at Unity Formulas goes right to Autism Safe Haven. Because of that, I also said I'd match 15% of our proceeds with the sale of Jerrik's products on United Patient Group site, goes right back to Autism Safe Haven. So if you haven't had a chance to look at us, go to unitedpatientgroup.com and go to the Autism Center, go to Jerrik's site at unityformulas.com. Or Jana's site, Autism Safe Haven. One thing, Jerrik, I want to say thank you to for our audience. Jerrik has given a 15% promo code UPG15, UPG15, and that will give you 15% off. And Jerrik not only is great at answering phone calls, but emails, but if you place an order by noon, it'll go out that day?
Yeah, Monday through
Friday. And so, but I wanted to share that as well. But I thank you, and I appreciate you coming on. And one time I'd like to do a live podcast with you. Maybe we can do something on a Facebook Live and really draw in some of the families that have questions. So if you do have questions, you can email me, write them in the comments, and I'll make sure myself, Jana, or Jerrik answers. So thank you, Jerrik. And any closing words you want for the audience?
Yeah, reach out. I am here to help in any way I can, and that's what I'm committed to. That's why John and I are on the same page. Yeah. Jana, we're all here to help in any way we can. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. And lights on. Did that go off on you?
Yeah, they just turned off.
So anyway, everyone, Jerrik, I appreciate you being on. Everyone, this is John Malanka with United Patient Group. Be informed and be well, and wishing you all a blessed day as well. Thanks, Jerrik. And
thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.